Good morning. Thank you all for being here at the June Convening for the Baton Rouge Area Youth Network. Thank y'all so much. All right, so this morning we are going to talk about the elements of a successful needs assessment with Tekoah Boatner. As usual, we go over our agenda where we get grounded. We have our BRAYN coffee shop. Our keynote speaker, as I said, is Tekoah Boatner from Youth Oasis. We'll have BRAYN announcements, community announcements, and then we'll close out and say goodbye for now. First, we will get grounded with Cindy Bonin.
Good morning, everyone. I hope your summer is going well so far. So at the start of our BRAYN convenings, we always want to affirm the organization. And that starts with BRAYN is a network for youth organizations that provide one or more of the following: after-school youth programming, summer youth programs, and/or wraparound support services for youth. The BRAYN goals are to build the youth services field to improve communities and how communities and schools work together to create more equitable outcomes for youth in the long term and increase youth engagement in high quality out of school opportunities, which is what all of you guys do. And our principles of practice are community. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. All of us are choosing to go together. And the quality of our relationships and trust matter. Move at the speed of trust. Collaboration is number 2. So we can fight for the scraps that fall off the table, or we can build a bigger table together. Collaboration builds that table. And the third principle of practice is consensus. This process requires us to slow down, take time to build shared understanding, and value equity in decision-making.
Thank you so much.
Back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Cindy. At this time, we go into our BRAYN coffee shop, but before we do that, I see some new faces. So Forrest, if you could just drop the link in the chat one more time. If you could let us know you're here by signing in, we would appreciate it. From here, we go in our BRAYN coffee shop where we get to know each other and talk a little bit about the topic before it's presented by the keynote speaker. So today we will go into 3 breakout rooms where we will discuss how a needs assessment has or could benefit your organization, as well as some major challenges you face when creating or implementing a needs assessment. So if you just give us a second, Forrest Middlebrook from the Baton Rouge Youth Coalition, also convening working group member, will start dividing us in 3 breakout rooms. And those facilitators are Courtney from Big Buddy, Jasmine from Big Buddy, and Dr. Harrison from the Guardian Initiative, all stellar members of BRAYN. Well, we're going to take a few minutes and share out what you all talked about in the breakout rooms. So Cindy, take it away.
Yes, so it was Dr. Harrison, Boo, and Josh Landry from the YMCA of Capital Area. We were all talking and we all agreed that a needs assessment is incredibly beneficial for our organization. Boo with Cure Love Strategies and Dr. Harrison and I with Guardian Initiative talked about how, you know, an external source coming in would be helpful, and, you know, the challenges of knowing what you need, but then how to get there. And then Josh from the YMCA, since it's a national organization, they do have one annually. And so he was able to talk to us a little bit more about what needs were and gaps that they found last year in staffing and in the funding sources and how they were able to adjust that to be more effective. Very helpful. All right, that's all.
All right, thank you, Cindy.
Thank
And
you.
Courtney, what about your group?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We had a very lively bunch. Yes, ma'am, for a good Friday. We have some guest people. We also had, I love the guest speaker, Mr. Dakota. We had Mr. Carter for the Boys and Girls Club. They all had great information. We really kind of dive into about like the needs assessment, and they each gave information about how each of their programs or organization has been trying to do a needs assessment or the upcoming future for one. And then what does it look like regarding just different challenges? You know, like when you get the data, how do you implement it? Some of us kind of look at it like this is a lot. You could get overwhelmed about it. We also kind of talk about some other challenges just regarding about logistic pieces. And just, of course, again, I think Ms. Dakota really honed in and gave us more information about her youth advisory board and how they meet and just kind of having a buy-in about what programs that's going to be a part of their organization and services that they provide. And she said a really great little quote that I love. She said it was something about teaching and feedback. I probably didn't say it right, but it was really awesome. Teaching and feedback was a really great thing. And I think she may touch more of it in her presentation. Again, we just kind of dive in more about assessments and then the different challenges and then upcoming things that we have. But it was a lively bunch, so it was good.
Tekoah, thank you, Courtney, for that report. Tekoah, would you like to share the quote? We love quotes.
Oh, I probably don't remember it as well either. Yeah, I tell you, record, because most people say that again. I can't. But what I was saying was our youth advisory board is a combination of teaching and feedback, because we're getting their feedback, but we're also teaching them how to get that feedback and how to actually change and advocate on behalf of themselves.
Good. That's good. Okay, well, we will go ahead and turn it over to Miss Cindy to introduce our keynote speaker.
Yes, well, she's already changed some lives with a quote in the breakout room, but today we have Tekoah Boatner, the Executive Director of Youth Oasis, and she will be discussing how to conduct a needs assessment. So Tekoah is a versatile, multidisciplinary system professional with exceptional qualifications and a passion for growing teams and businesses. Her years of expertise in the human services industry demonstrate her capacity to adapt to customers' changing requirements in various roles, and she specializes in creating outcome-based programming and integrating systems thinking into business models, which correlates to a varied financing portfolio. And so needs assessments are very much up her alley. And her distinctive perspective and level of expertise stem from her upbringing in a society of conflicting ideas while being a Southern girl with Northern ancestry. Me too. She is skilled at cutting through the noise that frequently results from fervent and strong opinions in order to discover the still, quiet voice that contains the answer. Her expertise in political science and multidisciplinary human services blends her capacity to assist people in navigating complicated human service systems with quick analysis of policy issues and the ability to communicate them in an engaging and likable manner. The end result is a highly skilled individual who thrives on seizing the chance in a demanding setting, a specialist with the capacity to develop culture-based models that are flexible, scalable, and responsive. In her personal life, Tekoah enjoys connecting with like-minded individuals in collaborative ventures to address community issues. She is a strong supporter of any cause that strengthens our access to human rights. Tekoah lives in Louisiana and loves to travel. Everyone, welcome Tekoah Boatner, the Executive Director of Youth Oasis. Whoop, whoop.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Cindy, for reading my very long, overly wordy bio, and I promise my presentation has fewer words in it. So we'll get started with the needs assessment. I'm going to jump right in. Cindy, I assume I'm doing next slide for you to know when to move on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Next slide. All right, so today we're going to talk about understanding a need, the purpose of a needs assessment, understanding the steps in conducting a comprehensive needs assessment, and understanding how to incorporate the results of your needs assessment into program development. For a little bit of background, as mentioned, I've been with Youth Oasis for the past 5 or 6 years, and what I've really learned in my capacity as executive director of really how to conduct all of the different pieces. You know, I frequently say, if you're a leader of organization, if you're executive director, your job is to be the composer. You don't play the music. You find what pieces work together. Sometimes you need to take out a horn. Sometimes you need to know you know what that picture is supposed to look like. That's your job. Your job is to continue to readjust that picture. And that picture has to be informed by data, because your funding has to be informed by data. So the first step to that is a needs assessment. Next slide, please. I do want this to be informal, so if anybody has questions, just drop in, because I can get wordy and I'm going to try not to be. So what is it? So a needs assessment identifies gaps in your program and allows you to tailor interventions to meet the needs. In order for a needs assessment to work, it has to involve the population that you are trying to serve. Since we're talking about youth, it does require that you need to have youth involved. So this is one of my really big soapboxes that I get on, especially with my background as a case manager. You go to a staffing and you're discussing a child, and the child is not present, nor the chart. Who are you actually discussing at this point? At this point, your needs are being centered, not the needs of the person that you're serving. You need to have a document that either, if they're not there to speak their voice, you need to have something that is able to speak their voice for them. And so your needs assessment can serve as that if you don't have other documents. And essentially, it's your compass. It is going to always show you where you are. If you have any misalignment in your organization, and what does that look like? Misalignment is going to be, you know what, we're spending all of this money, but our outcomes aren't matching up. Something's misaligned. You need to go back and see if that program is actually structured appropriately to give you the outcomes that you need. And that may need to go back to your needs assessment. Did your need assessment change, right? Next slide, please. So in the context of youth programming, it shapes your program development and your strategic planning. It has to be both, right? It helps you spot the service and resource gaps in youth lives, and it guides you into wisely allocating your resources to bridge the gaps. So one funding strategy that all nonprofits should use is funding BRAYN, right? But that only works when you have a good picture of the needs that you're meeting, because you are tying the needs together under a unified service model, right? And so if you are only focused on the programming or the funding instrument, then you're not actually going to be able to use either to produce the outcomes. And the outcomes is what adds to more resources. Next slide, please. So it's going to bring about the programs that answer to the real voice needs of our youth. Services that are designed for maximum effectiveness and strong foundations for funding requests, and demonstrates accountability. So when people come starting an organization or they're looking for more funding, mission creep happens because they look at what's available. And then they take their programs and they retrofit the program to meet the funding announcement. And that's where your misalignment is going to occur, because your needs assessment, that data from your needs assessment is going to inform your strategic plan. Your strategic plan deals with the capacity that the organization has to complete the mission, right? The programs, your needs assessment is going to fit the program, because the programs then need to be designed using the capacity that the strategic plan has provided, right? All of these pieces go together. Next slide. So understanding the context, the community, that's your first step. You have to immerse yourselves in the environment which your programs take root. So it's not just your needs assessment is going on both sides. It's not just client. You're also looking at where you're providing the services. You need to assess your community. So I also mentioned something in the group, you measure what matters. Right? That's across the board for anything. So when you're starting to do a new program, the first thing you're going to be doing is looking at your needs assessment, but then you're also going to be looking at what has the community said about these needs? Has anybody done this? Has anybody looked for studies? Has anybody tracked what these services are? And if you have no data, then this data point, this service doesn't matter to your community. That's a data point. That's going to go into your needs assessment. It's also a data point. So identify the specific needs of the community that you're serving. You're going to ask, what are the defining characteristics of your population? So when we're talking about youth agencies, all of us serve different parts of the youth. And I did not have time to do my little youth person and kind of devise some and show them where everybody's going. But we all serve different type of youth: school age youth, younger youth, youth in foster care, youth in juvenile justice, youth coming from youth who speak English as a second language. All of these are specific populations within the youth demographic. So what are those characteristics and how do their stories differ? Stories does count as a needs assessment. So when you're talking to those youth, and this is also why my staff will tell you all the time, everything is billable, right? And I don't say that because I'm trying to get them to bill everything. I say that because I want them to understand that every interaction is a useful piece of data. But if you do not document that and you do not record it, you will lose it. Right? Because that's how youth work with you. Youth work through play and connection, right? How many times have you been sitting there doing something and a youth that is in the program just comes to sit with you and you end up hearing their story? That's not why you're there, right? At that point, when that youth decides to connect with you, you stop writing that grant, you stop writing whatever, and you start taking notes, giving them your full attention because you're getting data. Right. Consider the cultural and the linguistic diversity of the community, and of course, involve community members in the process to help gain insight and build trust. Next slide, please. So when you identify your target population, the stakeholders are your guiding star. So who works in the surrounding environment where your youth live? So obviously there's going to be people like schools, that's going to be the Department of Child and Family Services, that's going to be your hospitals, that's going to be your I'm sorry, it's summer, kids are home. What are the age ranges and characteristics? Really simple stuff. The youth we serve and their families, they are at the heart of the work. So you're not just taking into account the youth, because when it comes to youth needs, most of their needs have to be provided by an adult. So in order to be effective, you need to know their characteristics, but you also need to know the characteristics of the family. Because in order for that work to really stretch through and get to those outcomes, you're gonna have to be able to have impact everywhere. What are the specific needs and challenges, and are there any subgroups? So again, for example, Youth Oasis serves transition age youth. That's the Fed speak for our population. The subpopulations within that are going to be BIPOC youth of color. There's going to be LGBTQ plus youth. You're going to have youth with lived experience of homelessness. You're going to have youth with lived experience of family separation. You're going to have youth with lived experience of incarceration. These are all subpopulations underneath transition age youth. If you are serving youth between the ages of 0 to 5, you're serving the early childhood population. They have subpopulations also. Your goal at that point is to determine what are those subpopulations, because every subpopulation is going to drill down into another need, but those needs connect to the overall picture, right? And this is how you can I don't want to say get in front of, but be aware of the ripple effects of programming. And this is what I mean by the ripple effects of programming. You have one intervention, but when that intervention is not enough, you're going to see a decrease in your outcomes. And that's because there are barriers in the subpopulations that have not been addressed. Right? And what do I mean by that? So one of those things is housing. You have a youth, you provide housing, and yet when they leave housing, they still won't be able to afford it. Well, that's because the market forces have changed the rent. That's not something that you could have prevented, but can you adjust your programming to account for that fact? You can if you've measured it and you've tracked it and you put it up as a data point. Next slide, please. So pinpoint the needs. After you get that profile, what are those needs? What challenges are most heavily burdening our youth? What resources are needed to lighten them? And what obstacles are standing between our youth and those resources? So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to pick on Dr. Harrison. And I want you to answer the questions from the point of your target population to see if this is clear, making sense. So who is your target population? Tell us that.
You're on mute, Dr. Harrison. Dr. Harrison, you're on mute. Gotta
Oh my
unclick.
gosh, I was just talking and unmute.
I knew you were
Okay.
saying good.
Our target population are middle and high school students, but the reason for that is because of our data. Our data comes from CCYS. It's called Caring Community Youth Survey, and it's administered in the school systems. And from that data, it said that our youth were using alcohol and marijuana in the park and in the we also did focus groups and like in the apartment between the duplexes and the apartment buildings. That's what it was. Okay, but in the field of prevention, our goal is to change the community in order to impact the lives of the youth. And so everything you said, I agree with it, because we first had to start with the data to say why we chose to focus on developing our park and engaging with law enforcement, because all of these BRAYN and law enforcement were probably critical to us making the impact we have in that community.
Okay, so Dr. Harrison, what I'm hearing is that your subpopulation within your target population is middle school and high school age youth. The
Correct.
subpopulation within that that's going to be youth with high substance use, or
No, just anybody in the community.
right? Okay,
Right.
so the substance use is going to be the main challenge, or is there other challenges
It's to prevent. It's really to prevent.
right?
So we don't really address, and I don't want to say that we don't address, but our focus is to prevent substance use among the population.
Okay, so what are the challenges that are the heaviest burden to that population that you serve?
One of the things, as you were talking about the subpopulations. After 2016 and the flood of 2016, we had an influx of Spanish-speaking youth to move into the community and their families. And so with our staff, we had to hire a Spanish-speaking person to help us to interact with those families. And it has made a tremendous impact.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I know we don't have a lot of time. Next slide. If y'all have questions, please put them in the chat. I want to try to get, because this is a big one, I want to get through a lot. So collecting and analyzing data. So how do you do this, right? Now you've decided and you understood the importance of doing it. You know you're going to do it. And I want to be clear that your needs assessment doesn't occur at the beginning of the program. It's a continuous process, right? Because now that you've started, you still want to go back and see, have the needs changed? And the needs have changed because the community has changed. And the needs also should change because of your intervention, right? So to gather data, cast a wide net. You want quantitative, which is going to be surveys, your census data. This is your number people, right? And then qualitative, that's where you have those conversations, those interviews, and those focus groups. Identify the key needs and services and uncover the roots, right? Because remember, needs present as symptoms, but that doesn't mean that the need is the actual issue, right? There's a cause. What are the roots of the cause? And that's probably going to be found within the community. And then you identify existing potential solutions and resources. Now, I highlight the word existing because, again, I think nonprofits get into the spiral when we try to address every single thing that our clients are going through. We cannot do that because we do not have the capacity. So part of your needs assessment is to also identify what's already in place. Because perhaps instead of creating something new, you can partner with somebody and expand capacity somewhere else. Right. Next slide, please. You're going to determine the goals and objectives of your assessment, identify the purpose and scope. And this is the pre-work. When you decided, okay, we're going to do it, you need to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, right? What's the purpose and the scope? How big, how much data do you need to get? How far do you need to go? For our landlocked people, and I say landlocked, but specific geographic locations. So 70805, if your mission, the mission of your organization is 70805, that's your scope. Right. So that's the scope of your assessment. How far, how much quantitative data do you need? How much qualitative data? Using a variety of collection methods, surveys, interviews. Please, please, please use tech as much as possible. It's going to make this easier. And then analyze and interpret data to inform program design. Here is where partnerships with your universities come in handy, because even if they aren't able to design and do the needs assessment for you, because that is a costly thing, they can help you identify your methods, your ability to interpret the data, because they have interns and we make use of those interns and they're learning these skills and all of you can learn together. So you don't have to take this on all by yourself. Also, if you are, for example, BRAYN as a organizing membership collective can choose to do a needs assessment on behalf of their member organizations, right? So this is another situation of many hands making for light work, because now we can parse out the different parts of those questions that we've identified, the scope that we've identified. We can divide them accordingly based on the target population that we've identified and the subpopulations that we've identified. And we can connect them to all of the organizations that work with them. And now those organizations will conduct those surveys. And now we have a comprehensive community-wide youth needs assessment. And it probably only took about a month worth of work individually for the organizations. Obviously, it's going to be much longer than that, but it's really not that difficult to get the data. And that's the point of this. Next slide, please. So now that you've got your data, what are those resources, right? You're doing the data on your clients, and now you're doing the research on the community. What's available, what's there. And if you look at your community and you're going through the resources, and I cannot stress enough, vet your resources, because we know funding changes, right? And so if you're looking in your community assessment and you see this wealth of resources, and that should leave you to, well, why? So your next step then is to go and check on all of these resources. Why are they not working? Why are they not addressing and meeting this need? What can we do to help? And that's how you engage community members. And that engagement is going to give you more information. And you're going to evaluate the effectiveness, right? Like, why aren't they working? Or why aren't they working as intended and designed? Next slide, please. So now that you got your data and you've got your assessment and you identify resources, now you put together an action plan. And I put it I'm a big, again, my background is case management, so I'm gonna always refer everything to those terms. And so you need to put a care plan together for your organization. Yes, I said it, a case management plan. And the reason I say that is because it has all the components that you're gonna need, right? Who does what is gonna be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, right? You need to do that for your programming. You need to, and just as you have someone who's tasked to check with your clients every 30 days to adjust that service plan, you need to have the same type of service planning for your programs, that qualitative assessment. We make it into something, you know, a big monster, but it really is just a case plan, and you're following the case plan on a monthly, quarterly, or biannually time schedule, right? And how does your program need to evolve? That's what that does. It gives you a starting point based on that data. Here are the goals. We need to check on this every 6 months, right? Because you should be collecting data, and that gives you time to go back in and check it. How does this information impact our budget and resource allocation? Because this is the meat of it, right? So you've identified the needs. You know what your youth need. Can we do it? Can we afford it? Right? And even if we don't have it in the budget, do we have any in-kind services? How does this impact our resources? One way that, in addition to, because being realistic, yes, we want to provide all the things, but before we determine whether or not we're going to apply for another grant, we're going to take that money, we're going to put it against our needs assessment, we're going to put it in that budget and see, does it fit? Is it going to knock us out? Is it going to add to us? How does it change our resource allocation? Because maybe that program funding, that funding instrument is not what we need right now. Next slide, please. All right, so I got through it. That is the needs assessment and a whole. It is a action-based plan that will help you design programs that are more effective. And the point of that effectiveness is that data, right? Because you cannot get the funding if you do not have the data, but you have to do something to get the data. So if you don't have staff yet, and you don't have people who can do services, you can do a needs assessment. And then the next step to that is having a good grant writer who can now put together a proposal based on that needs assessment to show, we have created this organization to address these gaps, and this is how we're going to do so. Questions, comments, songs, poems?
I just want to make a comment, Tekoah. I think you did an excellent job in such a short period of time, but then it made me think of, like the Guardian Initiative. We have the overarching goal of making Gardeer a safe and healthy community, and that's what our funding. But then, as I was listening to you, I was thinking about a needs assessment for all the components that makes a community safe and healthy. So, we need maybe different levels of assessments. So
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome. No questions? I'm scared.
Cindy had her hand up.
I think she was applauding.
Oh, okay. Wrong emoji, I'm sorry.
And yes, Dr. Harrison, to your point, you do need to do those different types of assessments on every part, because there's a statement in here about how evolve. And I prefer that word over change, because change has such a strong context, right? And people can resist change, but you cannot resist evolution. That is a scientific process, meaning it's going to happen with or without you. So if your community evolves and your program is not evolving with it, your program will not be successful. And this small thing will help you to evolve. Survival of the fittest.
That's correct. And then I'm looking at Reggie and Bobby with the Boys and Girls Club. And and like we had Josh who was with the Y, and these are organizations that are connected like nationally and then statewide, and it differs from smaller nonprofits such as ours.
Mhm.
I was gonna say too, I know with Boys and Girls Club, I mean, as far as like in Tekoah, when you were saying the thing about with the statisticians or the people like getting with the universities as far as like collecting the data and stuff like that. I know there's some data I know that we have used as an organization or as a movement anyway, from Annie
E.
Casey
Casey. Mhm.
and in Casey Foundation, where there is some national, data that's out there that's, it may not be for your specific, maybe drop down community, like just the people in your, like right in your block or zip code, but there is some that can get you started, as far as like with the area that you're in, so I know that's some of the
Yes.
things that we have used in the past, as far as like, if you're looking at a certain region, like for Baton Rouge, like there's information on Baton Rouge, you can start from there, and then, if you kind of home down some, you can, try to get a little bit more. So yeah, we try to, we don't throw, there's a lot of people that do the research and things like that. But we also try to rely on those that's already been done. So
Oh, absolutely. Don't
Yeah.
recreate the wheel if you don't have to, but it's important to drill it down. And I've actually had, like, I will call my accountant. I was like, take this number and do the math to make it work for this area. And here's a population, right? Because it's important to tie it to something actionable and something factual, something that can be looked up. And even if you're not big, again, I'm a big fan of create a Google form and send it out to people. Like, it's free, it's easy, and it's data. Like, there are no real obstacles to doing it if, one, it matters and you're committed to doing it because you measure what matters.
Yeah, something else, and this is, you were speaking, I was, when you're talking about statisticians, SurveyMonkey, I think, is a tool that would be good for BRAYN to have, because all of the organizations could use it, and then it gives you, really good analyses for whatever survey that you have. And it's not expensive compared to having to pay a statistician.
Right. And for example, BRAYN has the summer program right now. So it would be super, I won't say super easy, but the people who are, take one data point and determine like what is the most impactful number that we want to see a change to based on this program. Now, if you cannot identify that one single data point, your program is too broad, right? That's important to know, because if you cannot isolate a data point that one can be measured and tracked over time, then you actually don't have a metric of success. What's the success? The number of involvement doesn't actually translate to what may impact the funding. So find one data point that you want to see measured, divide, come up with a question and get that sourced out. Is this a good question? And then put it on a schedule every couple months. And at the end, you'll have a graph to see what the shift was. Did it go up or did it go down? Right. And then you use that next year to rebuild and evolve the program. Y'all really ain't got no questions for me? All right. Then.
Well, I was going to ask too, Tekoah, and again, you did a phenomenal job there. Like I know with us, as far as like with our membership application, a lot of our grants can be generated just from the data that we collect from that, like as far as like different categories, like, income, they're achieving any type of assistance and things of that nature, like amount of people in the home and things of that nature. Is it a way that, like maybe for Dr. Harrison, like with the Guardian Initiative, as far as like with the sign up process, like with the actual membership and stuff that, parents may have to fill out to be a part of the program, you can include some of the data that you need in that. So that's an easy collection point as well.
Absolutely. That's exactly the best way to do it. If your program has natural meeting points, meaning this is when they're going to be meeting with whomever for whatever, recertification or what have you. That's the point at which you can easily stick in some qualitative assessment to get data, and it's painless. And now you can measure any changes. For example, the McKinney-Vento, that is a small data point, but at the beginning of the school year, you fill out a form about where you live. Well, it's supposed to be done continuously. I don't think it happens like that. But the idea is you could start school home and then not be, right? And so for schools, that's a useful tracking measure for them, because the number of youth that are homeless will have a negative impact on their ability to test well. That will have a negative impact on the educational outcomes of the school. So that means the school needs to incorporate McKinney-Vento services. That's how that comes about, right? So find the natural stopping points in your program and use that to insert some tool to get some data that can be tracked over the longevity of the program and their participation. And that's really simple. And then you tie it to larger community assessments like the ALICE from Capital Area United Way, the Kids Count from Canada EKC. There's the Voices of Youth Count from Chapman Hall. There are so many youth surveyed. The After School Connection has a data point. Youth Homelessness Coalition has data points. You connect your data to their data because that's going to give you the scope of the issue. And Jasmine is giving me those eyes like, hurry up, because I'm going to get people out of here on time. So
No,
I will
actually,
not
was
make
so
her
engaged.
upset.
No, those eyes were total engagement and my wheels turned, and that was totally not, and you still had 1 minute, so.
I know, but I want to say to your 1 minute, since you were throwing out all those surveys, I want to tell you the CCYS Caring Community Youth Survey, what it does, now we get data from our specific schools. Like you could go to Glasgow and ask for that specific data, but it tells you risk factors and protective factors. And for me, it's one of the best data instruments because it talks about your particular school district. Now, one of the things about, well, the disadvantage for Gardeer is that we have students going to attending Glasgow, but you also have students who are coming from other communities. So that's why it's important sometimes for us to collect data from our own residents, but we can compare it to the CCYS to see what's the similarities and differences.
Well, if you all can share those in an email to me, I'll make sure that they go out in the recap. I think it would be beneficial for our organizations to ensure that they are looking into that. So thank you, Dr. Harrison, for sharing, and thank you, Tekoah. This is exactly what BRAYN is about. There's strength in every organization, every executive director, and every staff member has something to add. So Tekoah Boatner, on behalf of everyone, if everybody wants to give our a hand clap, thank you so much. Great job. It shows that Youth Oasis has so much more to offer other organizations. So thank you for your membership. Thank you for your topic today, and thank you for the amazing presentation. Dr. Harrison, it looks like you want to say something else.
Oh, no. I was clapping for myself for putting my little emoji up there.
All right, so with that, we will share Tekoah's information. If you have additional questions, especially about the needs assessment, her email is here as well as her digital card. I'm not sure if that's hyperlinked, the digital card, but I can make sure that it goes out in the recap. The recap will go out next week so that we can clean up the recording and get that ready for YouTube. Like I said, this is what the convenings are about, helping each other, helping the youth organizations thrive. Our next one will be in July. On the 21st from 10 a.m. to 11:30 via Zoom. BRAYN is going to be in the community again at the Safety Place Back to School Bash on July 8th and the EBR Back to School Bash on August 5th. As one of your member benefits, we love to promote your programs at our table. So please drop off promotional items or flyers for us to showcase your organization's mission at these events. We also are asking for volunteers. So if you are interested in volunteering, Forrest is dropping a link in the chat to let us know how you would like to engage with those two events. So either volunteer or drop off materials. Certification is next month, the second week of July. The membership working group will be meeting to certify members that intend to work in EBR in the fall. A link is going to be dropped in the chat that will discuss the membership onboarding for those of you who are guests or need to renew your membership. In that document, you will also see where we discuss certification instructions. If you have any questions about your membership, renewing your membership, or the certification process, please email admin@ourbrayn.org, or you can reach out to me directly using my cell phone number in my signature, and I'll be more than happy to discuss with you where you are in membership. We have a convening topics survey that I am going to stop for just a second and ask you all to fill out prior to you leaving today. The convening working group is working so hard to ensure that these topics are relevant to each one of our members. Forrest just dropped that in the chat. And if you can just take a moment and fill that survey out, we're going to take 2 minutes. Well, thank y'all so much. I have had, several people reach out to me and ask about the definition of in good standing. I have shared this before, so I'm going to be brief with it. But again, reach out to me. Being in good standing means that your organization has signed an MOU. So even if you were here from the beginning, renewing your MOU annually is something that we ask that you do. Keep your information page up to date on through harmonize.inc. Parents really are excited about the youth locator. Everywhere I go, I am sharing it. I do know that members are increasing activity through the youth locator because now we're up to 80 pages. So please continue to do that. Please continue to keep your pages relevant. But if you are, just joining us, being in good standing means that you sign the MOU, keep your information page relevant, but also join a working group. The working groups is how we keep the work moving and relevant for your organizations. If you're interested in participating or partnering with EBR, you will need to be certified. That information was dropped in the chat with the membership onboarding. So to be in good standing, you need to complete 3 of those 4 steps. Our website is in the process of being updated, so all of that will be available on the public facing side of our website very soon. Our newsletter goes out at least bi-weekly. As a benefit to members, you can submit to admin@ourbrayn your JPEG or PNG flyers about your events along with the description. You do that, at your leisure. If you are in good, really it is first come, first serve. So, you get it in and I will put it in the newsletter as I can. But if it is, an event that's tomorrow, that's definitely not something that I would be able to consistently do. So please share so that we can share. but in a timely manner. Invite BRAYN to your summer programs. It is me. So Dr. Anderson does a fabulous job of keeping me abreast of things going on in the community. And sometimes I see that in some of your programs. I talk to several of you about, when you're helping BRAYN or when you're in a working group. And sometimes I'm able to reach out to a few of you to say, hey, what's going on? But if you would email me and invite BRAYN, I would, love to participate and understand more about your programs. And, at times potentially volunteer. And then lastly, I just want to say, schedule a meeting. If you ever email me, you'll see my signature where it says schedule a meeting. It is the best way to get my attention. Schedule a meeting with me. I'm eager to connect with each of you. Please share about BRAYN. And that is all I have. So I will turn it over. I saw several in the chat about several communications in the chat about events, community events. So those who dropped in the chat, if you can just raise your hand, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and allow you all to share your events. All right, Andrea, you're first.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for all of the wonderful information. Thank you, Ms. Boatner and Dr. Harrison, for sharing about needs assessment, the impact and the importance of it for the evolution of your organization and what you do for the community. So this has been very informative this morning. So I appreciate all of the information that was shared. And again, thank you, Ms. Jasmine, for putting this together and everyone that was involved. And so if you look in the chat, I'm Andrea Hollins. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer for C-Law Productions Incorporated. And in the chat was shared 2 flyers for our summer program this summer. So we actually have 2 programs operating, one in St. James Parish at the St. James Parish Library, and then a second program in Donaldsonville. And so like the assessment or the information shared on today, we love to go to communities where there is a need and effect change in that community through the performing arts. And so our program offers acting, singing, and dancing to the community. It's free. Of course, we partner with different organizations so the children can come, and we do operate about 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday in Donaldsonville, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday in St. James Parish, where they learn acting and dancing. They do a showcase performance at the end of the session where we invite the community. And so again, Ms. Jasmine, we will be in touch to let you know when that takes place. And then, of course, if anyone is seeking services in Baton Rouge, we are open to partner with those organizations as well.
All right, thank you so much, Andrea, for that. I am excited about the invite. Anyone
Yes, ma'am.
else?
And we are open again to coming to Baton Rouge and working with any organizations that are seeking performing arts organizations as well. And we've done that in the past with Big Buddy.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I am looking forward to connecting again with you and Ms. Butler about membership. Andrea, I know this is your first one, so welcome. And as you can see, this is, why I said BRAYN is where you all need to be. So thank you for your participation, and let's follow up about membership. Ebony, you are next.
Good morning, guys. How you doing? Empire 225. I am the program director of our AMP program, which is our violence prevention program. And this summer, we got a lot going on for the youth. The registration cost is $100, and that covers all the days, which is June 13th through the 15th, 9 a.m. to 3:30, June 20th through the 22nd, July 11th through the 13th, and July 18th through the 20th, with 20th being the last day, which is our water ganza. We're going to have a water day for the youth. And for the DCF youth that you guys have, if anybody has DCF youth, it is free for those youth. And then also, again, like I said, $100 for the cover charge. And if your youth does not have $100 to, pay for the camp, we do have sponsorship upon request. So if your youth cannot purchase or the parents cannot pay for the $100 registration, then we do have sponsorship upon request. They just have to sign up using the QR code or go to the link or use the email to sign up. We do currently have about 15 slots available. So if you have a youth that you know, or you have a group home that would like to sign up, you can sign your youth up. It's age 12 to 17 years old. And it's called Lit Summer Program because it's leaders in training. So we're training up some leaders over there.
All right, thank you so much, Ebony. Anyone else have something they want to share? Anything coming up?
I put in the chat, we're having, we have our drop-in clinic, a drop-in center in our clinic. We have a drop-in center that's open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 2. And of course, kids, as long as you are under the age of 24, you can come there. And but we have a movie night on June 17th, so this Saturday. And it's going to be at Out of the Box LGBTQ plus center in on Scotland Avenue. And we frequently have some of these just to give community and of course give the youth something, a chance to see themselves represented in media and in the culture. And so have you or your teens, or you and your teens, or anybody's interested, you're welcome to join us.
All right. Thank you, Tekoah. Anyone else?
Jasmine, I can go.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Forrest Middlebrook, and I'm the recruitment manager for BRIC, the Baton Rouge Youth Coalition. We are still in need of rising freshmen for the upcoming school year. So if you know any students that might be interested in our program, I can put the link in the chat where they can be referred to our website. And then I'll also include it, or have Jasmine included in the announcements that go out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Forrest. Anything else? Anybody have any Juneteenth celebrations going on? Not on this call. Okay, well, we all know that I like to be early because early means on time. And I love to give you minutes back in your day. So we will say goodbye for now. And I will see you all in July, some of you sooner than then, but I will see you all July 21st. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great weekend and a great
Thank
holiday.
you.